G'day guys, today we're going to be talking about reptile substrates and the 6 main substrates I use for all my animals. Now the substrate you use for your animals is critically important, whether that be for the species needs or the individual animal's health needs. You need to consider that when using a substrate. In order to keep your animal healthy, you need to make sure your substrate is clean or easy to clean, changed regularly, and simulates their natural environment. So there's two basic structural types of substrate you can use. And that is a sort of flat, hard surface, something like newspaper, or a particle-based substrate that is just individual bits and pieces. If you have a sick animal or an animal that needs to be quarantined for a certain amount of time because you just got it and you need to make sure it is of proper health, you probably want to be using something that is a flat, hard surface, such as newspaper or paper towel, anything like that. So you can examine anything that comes out of that animal that might be abnormal, that could otherwise be hidden inside a particle substrate. You won't get that problem if you're using a flat, hard surface. Only for a short period of time, of course, until you're sure the animal's healthy. Using a particle-based substrate for reptiles can be a great option for a variety of reasons, such as it can help with their muscle tone, as well as keep their feet healthy because they have a nice soft surface to walk on. As well as it's just great enrichment for them. They can exhibit natural behaviours such as digging and burrowing, and plus some animals have a tendency to walk through their waste, like these blue-tongued skinks here. If you had them just on paper for a long amount of time, they'd end up walking through their waste, paddling it all over the place, getting it all over themselves, and it's in a way a lot cleaner, as long as you're cleaning out the substrate regularly. So the 6 main substrates I use for my reptiles include Yuki Mulch, sand, sugarcane mulch, newspaper, fake grass, as well as coir peat. Now I'll just start by saying any particle-based substrate has the potential to cause impaction. However, it's really not that much of a risk if you're keeping your animal properly. Hydration, as well as correct temperatures so the animal can metabolically function correctly, is the most important in preventing impaction. I've kept animals with pure sand over 10 years, 0 problems, because I know my basking spot is right, as well as their nutrition and their hydration. So they can pass anything through, no worries. These animals have adapted over many years to suit these environments, where these harsh soils and substrates can be ingested and they can pass it through. They have the potential to do that if everything is right for them. So if you're new to keeping, and you're maybe not 100% sure on your temperatures and care and whatnot, maybe don't use a particle substrate right away. But I definitely urge everyone to get there in the end, because whilst there is a risk, there's only really a risk if you're doing things wrong. The benefits of your animal living on a particle-based substrate where it can dig and interact and get that enrichment, get that mental stimulation, so it's not sitting in a boring, sterile box all its life, that far outweighs the tiny little potential risk of an impaction that really won't happen if you're doing things right. With that said, there are definitely substrates I'd never use because of its impaction risk, such as large pebbles that the animal could swallow and probably won't pass through, as well as things like calcium sand, which are just deadly because they absolutely compact in the gut when the animal swallows it. So things like that would never use. So problems with substrate can also lead in from problems in other aspects of the reptile's life, such as diet. If you're not giving your animal a correct diet that's getting all the vitamins, nutrients and minerals it needs, sometimes the animals can have a tendency to try and eat the substrate in an attempt to make up for those minerals they're not receiving in their diet. So if you've got everything else covered, having a nice loose substrate in there the animal can interact with shouldn't be an issue. So each of my substrates I use has a specific sort of purpose to it. So let's go through the list. Sand. Sand is great for my dragons and other desert dwelling animals that like to dig and run around on that sort of surface. So I use it for them. It also is great for keeping enclosures dry. That's why I have it in here with my western blue tongues as part of their soil mix. And with sand, just got to mention for the whole impaction thing, you want to be using really fine grained sand that doesn't have sharp edges, all that sort of stuff, so that it can be easily passed through. Next we have Yuki Mulch. Now Yuki Mulch is one of my favorites ever since I started using it. It's just really good and natural for the reptiles. It's great for these burrowing species like the blue-tongued skinks, as well as the forest species to mix in their soil. It's just really good. It has a really nice smell. It can hold humidity if you want it to. Otherwise, if you dry it out, it stays nice and dry. It's great at holding back any waste smells, like when your lizard produces waste, it just clumps on top of it, sucks out all that smell and just keeps it there. Along with that, it looks great and it's super cheap. It's great for the animals to bury in and dig in. It's probably one of my favorite substrates for indoor and outdoor use. Sugarcane mulch is another great substrate like the Yuki Mulch, except I find it better for the animals to bury into. So I use it mostly specifically for my blue-tongued skinks, and I put it up to one side like you can see here in this enclosure, and the animals use it to bury right in there and feel secure, feel safe. I sometimes spread it across the whole enclosure, but I find using the Yuki Mulch, because it's a bit smaller sort of particles, looks a bit better on one side. And then having that nice bushy stuff for them to bury in with the sugarcane mulch, it just works great. Same with the Yuki Mulch, it's also great at managing your waste. If the animal does a crap on it, then it sort of just stays there, it sort of sucks it all together and it becomes a nice little package you can just spot clean out, super easy. It's very clean, it's very cheap, and it's just great to use. A good old newspaper is a classic reptile substrate. It's very important for me, especially when getting in new animals or when babies come, things like that. That's what I use newspaper for, new animals, which I'm trying to assess the health of. So I keep them on this for a short period of time so I can examine everything that comes in or out of them to make sure they're all healthy, no mites. It's very useful. If you've ever had mites before, it's not fun. So keep it out on newspaper and see mites, you can attack it much faster, much more effectively, and doesn't spread as much. So newspaper is great for that. Great for assessing the health of the animal or for housing a sick animal so nothing can get into its wounds or anything like that. Newspaper, big thumbs up, but you eventually want to move on from newspaper because it's not something you'd permanently keep an animal on, in my opinion. Now, fake grass. I use fake grass in mostly my outdoor blue-tongue hutches. And that's mostly because it provides good grip for the animals. It's really easy to clean. You just take the whole thing out, give it a good hose off, give it a soak, put some disinfectant on it and put it back in, and it looks pretty good. It's mostly functional because it's really good at drainage. That's why I have it out here in the front of these hutches, just for that drainage potential so things can stay nice and dry, nice and clean, and it's just really easy to keep in that sort of way. And last but not least, coir peat. So this stuff is absolutely great. It's made from coconut husk. It's really ground up small bits of coconut husk compressed into this brick. And as you can see on the side here, they actually now on the label, if it can focus, actually says good for reptile enclosures. So this stuff's totally reptile safe, really cheap, sustainable product. It was made from coconut husk and super easy to use. So it comes in this compressed brick. You put it in water and it expands, and then you can break it all up and it becomes like a eco-earth sort of substrate, I suppose. Now I use this mostly for my rainforest animals, like my Boyd's forest dragons, and it works really well. It's great, it holds burrows really well, so it's great for when they're laying eggs. It holds humidity very well, and it is quite clean and easy to replace. It's also a great additive when you're making your own sort of soil mix. So with my forest dragons and my other bioactive setup, like my mountain dragon tank, I mix this in with sand as well as the Yuki Mulch and maybe some organic sort of potting soil, stuff like that. And it's just a great addition. Looks great, works great. That easy. Now all these substrates I use, the great thing about them is they're super easy to find. Newspaper, you can get them for free, at least where I am anyway, or you can find some very easily for very cheap. And everything else can literally be bought at any hardware store normally. So this, the Yuki Mulch, sugarcane mulch, sand, you can get play sand, as well as fake grass, everything can be found at your local Bunnings, no doubt. And they're all really cheap and really effective. So those are the main substrates I use, guys. I obviously add in a few other things here and there, like some leaf litter. I'm a big fan of gum leaves and all that sort of stuff. Make sure you check out my last video for more on that sort of thing. And let me know what substrates you guys use down in the comments below. There might be something there that could be great for me that I just haven't tried out yet or I didn't even know about. So let me know down below. I'll see you in the next video. Any other questions, you can message me on my Facebook page. Make sure you follow that. Give the video a like if you liked it. And I'll see you next time.